My son got $53 million and threw me out. Days later, he was begging for my help. The day my selfish son and his wife hit the jackpot, winning $53 million in the lottery, they turned to me with cold eyes and said, "We don't need your tiny pension anymore. You're useless now. Go rot somewhere else." I remember that moment so clearly, their smug smiles painted across their faces, as if I had never mattered to them. But their expressions shifted the second I chuckled and asked softly, "Did either of you bother to check whose name is written on that winning ticket?" Their skin drained of color, and the silence that followed was sweeter than any music I had heard in years. But before I take you to that moment of satisfaction, let me rewind and tell you how it all unfolded. 3 weeks earlier, on a dull December morning in a small Iowa town, I was following the same ritual I had for over 3 decades. Every Friday, rain or shine, I went to the corner store to buy my weekly lottery ticket. I had been doing it faithfully for 32 years. Same numbers, same little prayer whispered under my breath. My name was Evelyn Miller, though most folks just called me Evie. I was 67, widowed for 2 years, and living in what my daughter-in-law called the guest room, though guests aren't usually forced to hand over every cent of their Social Security check as rent. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. This story gets much more intense, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. "Morning, Mrs. Miller," called Sam, the young man behind the counter. He wasn't a boy anymore, 25 now, but I still remembered when he was a little kid who used to ride his bike past our house, waving like I was his favorite aunt. "The usual," I said, handing him my $5 bill. "You got it," he replied with a grin, sliding the fresh ticket across the counter. Those numbers had a story stitched into them. 7 for the day I married George, the love of my life. 14 for the day my son Adam was born, when I thought the world had gifted me a treasure. 23 for our wedding anniversary, a reminder of promises that lasted until George's last breath. 31 for the number of the house where we built our family, where every corner held laughter and memories. 45 for the years George and I spent side by side, no matter what life threw at us. And 18 for Adam's age, the day he graduated high school, when I believed he was ready to conquer the world. Back then, I never imagined those numbers would one day turn into the sharpest weapon I had against betrayal. "Cross your fingers for me, Sam," I said as I tucked the ticket into my purse. "I always do, Mrs. Miller. One of these days your luck will turn." If only he knew just how right he was. I pulled my scarf tighter around my neck and made the slow walk back home. Passing by the White House with black shutters, the one George and I had poured our lives into, my chest tightened. Someone else lived there now, and they had painted it a pale yellow. George would have hated it. He used to say that a White House with black shutters looked dignified, like it belonged to a family that valued respect. And now, the irony was cruel. That dignified house had raised Adam, the very same son who now treated me as if I was nothing more than an inconvenience. By the time I reached Adam's large suburban home, his wife Rachel's car was already in the driveway. Through the kitchen window, I saw her pacing with her phone glued to her ear, her hands cutting through the air dramatically. Probably complaining to her sister about how hard her life was, even though she lived in comfort most people could only dream of. I slipped in through the back door quietly, hanging my coat on the hook by the laundry room. That hook used to hold George's work shirts and Adam's Little League jerseys. It was a place where things belonged. Now, even I didn't feel like I belonged. "Evie, is that you?" Rachel's sharp voice cut through the air, filled with irritation. "Yes, just me," I answered, keeping my tone calm though I wanted to snap back. "Sorry for existing in your perfect house." But I didn't. I had learned in the last 2 years that sometimes survival meant keeping your lips sealed, even when your pride screamed to speak. The day George died had changed everything, though I hadn't realized it immediately. Grief blinds you to the vultures waiting overhead, especially when one of those vultures is your own flesh and blood. His funeral was small and over too quickly. 45 years of shared life condensed into an hour-and-a-half service and a tray of store-bought sandwiches. Adam gave a lovely speech about his father being a good provider. Rachel dabbed her eyes at the right moments, though I had never once seen her shed real tears unless it involved her credit card being declined. "Mom, you can't stay in that big house alone," Adam said as we drove back from the cemetery. "It's not practical." I remember staring out of the frosted window, watching the empty fields roll by, thinking of the days George and I had driven those same roads with hands intertwined, dreaming of the family we would raise. "I've managed my whole life, Adam. I'll be fine," I said softly. Rachel leaned forward from the front seat, her voice wrapped in fake concern. But it's dangerous at your age. What if you fall? What if no one finds you for days? For a moment, I almost believed her words. But I should have listened to the whisper of George's voice in my heart, telling me that concern wrapped in sweet words can often hide darker intentions. Adam smiled faintly. We have plenty of space, Mom. The guest room hardly gets used. You'll be close, and you can help with the kids when they're around. That line, help with the kids, should have been my first warning. At first, it felt almost comforting. Rachel had fluffed the pillows in the yellow-painted guest room, telling me, it'll feel like your own hotel space, but with family nearby. And for a month it did. I cooked meals, I tidied up, and I stayed in my room when they wanted privacy. They seemed grateful, though they never offered to share the grocery bills or lighten my burden. My entire Social Security check vanished into what Rachel liked to call household contributions. By the second month the request started. Evie, can you watch the kids this weekend? We need couple time. Evie, could you pick up the dry cleaning? You're already going to the store. Evie, the cable guy's coming. Can you wait for him? We're both busy. It was subtle at first, but slowly I had shifted from guest to unpaid staff. And the worst part? I told myself it was temporary, that I was just buying time until I felt strong enough to live alone again. George's voice echoed in my mind more than once. Evelyn, when someone shows you who they are the first time, believe them. And if only I had, maybe I wouldn't have been blindsided by what came next. Life in Adam and Rachel's home quickly turned into something I hadn't signed up for. At first, I wanted to believe it was all love, family sticking together during tough times. But as weeks passed, I began to notice the cracks. Little things that stung more than I cared to admit. One morning, Rachel set papers on the kitchen table as if she was preparing for a business meeting. I was sipping my coffee, still half asleep, when she pushed a neat stack toward me. What's this? I asked, my stomach tightening. Just a breakdown of expenses, she said smoothly, her voice carrying that practiced sweetness she used whenever she wanted something. Since you've been here a few months now, we think it's only fair that we formalize things. Formalize? I repeated, already dreading her answer. Yes, she said, folding her hands together. Living expenses, utilities, food, household upkeep. It's only fair that you contribute proportionally to what you use. That word, proportionally, sounded harmless, but from her lips, it was a dagger. I picked up the paper. My eyes scanned the highlighted numbers. $800 for the guest room, $200 for utilities, $300 for food and supplies. Total. $1,300. Almost the exact amount of my monthly Social Security check. This seems high, I said carefully, my voice shaking though I tried to hide it. I'm just one person, Rachel. And I'm out most days at the senior center. She leaned back, tilting her head. But you use the kitchen. You shower. You do laundry. And when the kids visit, you're here with them. Costs go up, Evelyn. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The woman sitting across from me wasn't asking for help. She was charging me rent, calculating every dollar as if I were some stranger. Adam walked in then, sipping his coffee, clearly aware of what was happening. He didn't even look surprised. Mom, this is just temporary, he said, sliding into the chair beside me. We'll figure out a long-term plan that works for everyone. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that my son still cared, that he wasn't simply following his wife's lead. So I signed the paper. My hand trembled as the pen touched the page, but I signed anyway, because what choice did I have? At my age, with only $50 left for myself each month, where else could I go? That night, lying in the pale yellow guest room, I stared at the ceiling until my eyes burned. George's words came back again, his steady voice echoing in my memory. Don't let anyone take advantage of your kindness, Evelyn. Even family. Especially family. I whispered back into the dark. I'm trying, George. I really am. The months rolled on, and the mask slipped further. Rachel's requests turned into commands. Adam perfected the art of disappearing whenever tension rose. I became the one cooking every meal, scrubbing every dish, folding every load of laundry. When Adam's kids from his first marriage, Lily and Noah, visited, I was the one looking after them. I didn't mind. Those children were the only bright spots in the house. They filled the rooms with laughter, questions, and innocent joy. But even then, Rachel complained. One afternoon, I overheard her on the phone with her sister. Her voice sharp and bitter. "It's exhausting having kids here every other weekend," she hissed. "And with Evelyn too, it's like running a boarding house. She should be paying us more for the inconvenience." I stood frozen in the laundry room, clutching a basket of warm towels to my chest. My throat tightened as the words sank in. An inconvenience. That's what I had become. I swallowed the lump in my throat and returned to my duties, plastering on a smile when the children rushed in asking for snacks. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I was strong enough. But inside, the cracks widened. The breaking point came one November evening during one of Rachel's dinner parties. I had spent the entire day preparing food, arranging trays, polishing glasses. When the guests arrived, I greeted them warmly, serving drinks as if I were hired help. As I carried a tray of empty glasses through the living room, I heard Rachel's voice float across the laughter. "It's actually perfect," she told her friend, her tone dripping with pride. "Evelyn does all the housework, babysits whenever we ask, and even covers most of the household expenses. It's like having live-in help. Except she pays us for the privilege." The sound of their laughter pierced through me like ice. Her friend clapped her hands. "Genius! You should write a book. How to monetize your mother-in-law." I stood there, clutching the tray so tightly I thought the glasses might shatter in my hands. My cheeks burned, but I didn't say a word. I quietly turned and carried the tray into the kitchen, setting it down with care. My heart pounded in my chest, but outwardly, I smiled, nodded, and disappeared to my room upstairs. That night, staring out the window at the bare winter branches swaying in the wind, I realized something. This wasn't family helping family. This wasn't temporary. This was exploitation. They weren't giving me shelter, they were draining me, piece by piece, while convincing themselves they were generous. Still I said nothing. Because tucked in my purse, resting quietly, was the only thing that gave me strength to endure. The weekly lottery ticket with the numbers George and I had chosen together. Numbers that felt like hope, even in the darkest hours. And hope, as I was about to learn, has a funny way of turning into justice. December came early that year, carrying with it a heavy snowstorm and another blow from Rachel. She called me into the dining room one morning, spreading architectural sketches across the table as though she were presenting some great gift. "We're planning to convert the basement into a suite for you," she announced, her smile stretched too wide, her voice sugar-coated. "It'll have a little kitchen, your own entrance. Almost like your very own apartment." I stared at the drawings. A basement. They wanted to move me to the basement. What if I don't want to move there? I asked quietly, searching Adam's face for support. Rachel's smile stiffened. "Well, Evelyn, we've been thinking about it. We're starting to feel like we need our space back as a couple. This way, you'll have independence. Privacy. Doesn't that sound wonderful?" I looked at my son, hoping for a flicker of understanding. He shifted uncomfortably, then cleared his throat. "Mom, the contractor says it'll be done by spring. You'll still be close, but it'll give us all breathing room. If you'd rather find somewhere else, that's up to you." His words sank like stones in my chest. Somewhere else? With what money? I had barely $50 left for myself each month. My only options were a dingy studio apartment in the roughest part of town or a senior housing facility with a 2-year waiting list. They knew I was trapped. And still, they pushed me toward the basement like I was luggage cluttering their perfect home. That Friday, as snowflakes swirled through the freezing air, I made my familiar walk to the corner store. Each step crunched against the ice, and every breath stung my lungs, but the storm outside was nothing compared to the storm inside me. "Rough day for walking, Mrs. Miller?" Sam called from behind the counter as I shook the snow off my boots. "I've walked through worse," I said, handing over my $5. "Same numbers. Always." He slid the ticket across to me. As I tucked it into my wallet, I felt a strange weight in my chest. Not fear, not hope, but something in between. 7 for my wedding day, when I thought forever meant something. 14 for Adam's birth, when I thought raising him was my greatest blessing. 23 for the anniversary I celebrated year after year with George. 31 for the house where we built our dreams. 45 for the years we had together. And 18 for Adam's graduation, when I was so proud I cried until my throat ached. Those numbers had carried me through decades. And now, they were all I had left that was mine. Walking back, I passed a group of children sledding down the hill near the elementary school. Their laughter echoed across the frozen air, bright and full of life. For a moment, I saw Adam as a boy again, red-cheeked and breathless, refusing to come inside even when his mittens were soaked through. My throat tightened. Where had that boy gone? The boy who used to hug me tight after school, who once promised, "Mom, when I grow up, I'll take care of you like you take care of me." Now here I was, being pushed to a basement like a burden. When I stepped inside the house, Rachel was on the phone with the contractor. "Yes, keep it cheap. It doesn't need to be fancy. It's just for one elderly person. Just for one elderly person." That was who I had become in her eyes. Not Evelyn Miller, who had raised a family, buried a husband, and spent 67 years building a life. No. Just an old woman who could be tucked away like clutter. I went to my room, clutching my purse tightly, and sat by the window, watching the snow fall. Inside, my lottery ticket rested quietly, carrying those numbers like a silent promise. Sometimes, justice doesn't come when you expect it. Sometimes, it takes its time, building in secret, until the moment it finally arrives. That night, the winning numbers were announced. I was curled up with a library book when the news anchor smiled brightly at the camera. "Tonight's jackpot is $53 million, she said. And the winning numbers are 7, 14, 23, 31, 45, and Powerball 18. For a second, I thought I had misheard. My heart thudded painfully in my chest. I rewound the television and listened again. 7, 14, 23, 31, 45. Powerball 18. The book slid from my lap as I fumbled for my wallet. My fingers trembled as I pulled out the ticket. There they were. My numbers. The exact numbers I had played faithfully for 32 years. I stared at the paper until tears blurred my vision. After decades of hope and disappointment, after years of being treated as an inconvenience, I had finally won. Not just a win, a life-changing fortune. For one brief, wild second, I thought about running downstairs to tell Adam and Rachel. To share the joy, the relief, the miracle. But then the reality pressed in like a shadow. These were the people who had charged me rent for the guest room. The people who had planned to bury me in their basement. The people who laughed with their friends about how they were profiting off me. My joy hardened into resolve. This was not their victory. It was mine. I slipped the ticket back into my wallet, my hand steady now. Sleep never came that night. I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, hearing George's voice in my head. "Evelyn, don't let them take what's yours." By dawn, I had a plan. Saturday morning began like any other in that house. Chaos disguised as family life. The kids, Lily and Noah, were sprawled on the living room carpet still in their pajamas, arguing over which cartoon to watch. Adam was tucked away in his office pretending to be buried in work, though I knew he was planning his golf game. And Rachel was already dressed in her yoga outfit, her glossy hair pulled back like she was heading for a photo shoot. She breezed past me in the kitchen, her perfume trailing behind. "Morning, Evelyn. I'm off to yoga, then the salon. Can you handle the kids today?" I swallowed the bitterness rising in my throat and forced a smile. "Of course," I said softly, because that was what I always said. "Thanks," she chirped, as though I were the hired nanny. Then she was gone, the slam of the door leaving me alone with the children's laughter and the sound of the television. It might have been just another Saturday, except fate had other plans. Rachel decided to tidy the kitchen before she left. That meant rifling through my things, because in her mind, nothing of mine really belonged to me. She reached into my purse sitting by the counter, looking for the cereal coupons I had clipped earlier in the week. "Evelyn, where are those coupons you mentioned?" she called. "In the side pocket," I answered, busy trying to mediate the fight between Lily and Noah over the remote. She was quiet for a moment. Then her voice cracked with something I had never heard before. Shock. "Oh my God, what is this?" I turned, my heart dropping into my stomach. She was holding my lottery ticket between her fingers like it was burning her skin. Did you buy a ticket?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I buy one every week," I replied calmly, though inside I was screaming. Same numbers for 32 years. Her eyes went wide as she snatched up her phone, typing furiously. Do you even know what the winning numbers were last night? Before I could answer, she let out a shriek that echoed through the entire house. Adam! She screamed. Adam, come here. Now! My son rushed out of his office, his golf shirt half-buttoned, his hair a mess. What's wrong? Did someone get hurt? Rachel thrust the ticket at him, her hands shaking. Look at this. Adam frowned, confused, until she shoved her phone screen in his face. His eyes darted between the numbers, then back to the ticket. His lips parted, but no words came out. The silence in the kitchen was unbearable. Only Noah's small voice broke it. Grandma, can we still have pancakes? Rachel and Adam stood frozen, their eyes glued to the ticket like it was a golden crown. Finally, Adam's voice cracked. Mom, do you realize what this means? Oh, I realized. More than they did. Within minutes, the kitchen erupted in chaos. Rachel paced like a wild animal, her phone pressed to her ear, whispering into it like she was spreading the biggest news of her life. 53 million. Yes, million. We won. We're rich. Adam sat at the table, staring at the ticket as though afraid it might disappear if he blinked. This is real, he muttered again and again. This is actually real. The children stopped arguing and hovered near the doorway, their eyes wide with curiosity. Are we rich now? Little Lily asked. Rachel scooped her up, spinning her in a circle. We're rich, baby. We'll never have to worry about money again. I watched the scene unfold from my chair, my hands folded neatly on the table. My chest ached with both rage and sadness. Because in that moment, I saw them clearly. Not as my family. Not as people who loved me. But as opportunists who had already decided the money was theirs. Mom, Adam said finally, clutching the ticket like it was his birthright. We need to call a lawyer. An accountant. Maybe a financial advisor. There are taxes, procedures. We should probably call the contractor and upgrade the basement plans. Rachel's eyes lit up. Or maybe forget the basement. With this kind of money, we could buy a bigger house. A mansion. With a proper suite for you, Evelyn. Or better yet, one of those fancy senior communities. You'd love it. Swimming pools, activities, medical care. Everything you'd ever need. I stared at her, realizing what she truly meant. The money will buy them a nicer way to get rid of me. Adam nodded eagerly. That's actually a great idea. Mom, you'd be happier there, right? Surrounded by people your age. Something inside me snapped. They weren't planning a future with me. They were planning a future without me. Using my ticket. Using my numbers. Using my life. I leaned back slowly, my voice calm but cutting. There's just one small detail we should clear up. Both of them looked at me, expectant. The ticket, I said, holding out my hand. It's in my name. For a moment, the air froze. The kitchen went so quiet I could hear the hum of the refrigerator. Rachel's face went pale, then red. What do you mean? She demanded. Adam hesitated, then reluctantly placed the ticket in my palm. I looked down at it, tracing the numbers with my thumb. I mean, I bought this ticket with my money. From my purse. The same way I have every week for decades. Which makes it mine. Rachel's lips parted, her face flickering through shock, disbelief, and fury. But we're family. That money, it changes everything for all of us. I stood, feeling taller than I had in years. No. Rachel. It changes everything for me. The silence that followed was the sweetest sound I'd ever heard. Adam and Rachel stood frozen, like statues carved from disbelief. Their faces told the whole story. Shock, confusion, then panic creeping in like a shadow they couldn't escape. For years, they had thought of me as a helpless old woman, someone easy to control. And now, in one small moment, the ground beneath them had shifted completely. Mom, Adam said carefully, like he was speaking to a child. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Technically, sure, the ticket is in your name. But we're family. We share things. We support each other. The way he said it almost made me laugh. Support each other? Like when they charged me $1,300 a month to sleep in a yellow-painted guest room. Like when they whispered about moving me to the basement because I was an inconvenience. That wasn't support. That was business, and a cruel one at that. You're right, Adam, I said sweetly, slipping the ticket back into my wallet with deliberate care. We do support each other. That's why I've been supporting you with my entire social security check every month. And cooking your meals. And watching your children. For free. Rachel's eyes narrowed, but she quickly switched into her businesslike tone, the one she used when she was trying to close a deal. Evelyn, honey, she said, her voice dripping with false kindness. I think there's been a misunderstanding about our arrangement. You're not paying rent. Those contributions were simply your share of the household expenses. We've never seen you as a tenant. I tilted my head, pretending to think. Is that so? Then I suppose you won't mind if I stop contributing right away. Since I'm family and not a tenant, after all. For the first time, Rachel's fake smile cracked. Adam stepped forward, hands raised as if he were trying to calm a wild animal. Mom, please. Let's just take a breath. This is huge news. Life-changing news. We need to think carefully before making decisions. Oh, I've been thinking, I replied, my voice steady. Since last night when I saw the numbers on the screen, I've had a lot of time to think. Rachel's eyes flashed with desperation. What kind of thoughts? I met her gaze, unflinching. Thoughts like how $53 million is more than enough for me to live the rest of my life comfortably, without depending on anyone. The room went cold. I could almost feel the temperature drop. You're not serious, Rachel whispered, her voice brittle. You wouldn't just leave. Not after everything we've done for you. My chest tightened with a mix of anger and sadness. Everything they'd done for me. Did she mean taking my money each month, while calling me a burden behind closed doors? Did she mean planning to lock me away in the basement like an old piece of furniture? Yes, Rachel, I said softly but firmly. I'm very serious. Adam ran his hands through his hair, his voice rising in panic. Mom, this is too big for you to handle alone. You need guidance. You need family. You need us. I looked at my son then, not the little boy who once clung to my hand on his first day of school, not the teenager who had proudly accepted his diploma while I clapped until my hands hurt, but a man I barely recognized. His eyes weren't filled with love or concern. They were filled with fear of losing control. Adam, I said quietly, my throat tight. Do you know what your father made me promise before he died? He froze, his face pale. Rachel blinked, her mouth opening slightly. I held their gaze. He made me promise that I wouldn't let anyone take advantage of my kindness. He said people would try, especially family, because they'd think I was too polite or too weak to fight back. He was right. But he also told me something else. He told me I was stronger than I knew. The silence that followed was heavy, pressing down on us all. Rachel shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting to Adam, looking for him to say something, to fix this. Finally, she cleared her throat, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Evelyn, you're overreacting. This is just a miscommunication. You misunderstood our intentions. I reached into my purse, pulling out a small notebook where I had scribbled notes over the past year. A miscommunication? I repeated. Then maybe you can help me understand these numbers. I opened the notebook, my voice calm but sharp. Over the last 12 months, I've given you $15,600. I've spent over 1,000 hours babysitting your children. I've cooked around 300 meals. I've washed hundreds of loads of laundry. And in return, you gave me a guest room you planned to move to the basement, and the privilege of hearing my living situation turned into a joke at your dinner parties. Rachel's face flushed bright red. Adam stammered. That's not fair, Mom. We provided you with a home. No, Adam, I corrected him gently. You provided me with room and board in exchange for money and free labor. That's not generosity. That's exploitation. The word hung in the air like a blade. I stood then, smoothing my sweater with slow, deliberate movements. And now, I said, my voice steady, I finally have the resources to choose something better. Rachel's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Adam's hands clenched at his sides. For once, they had no words. That night, the house felt like it was holding its breath. Rachel barely spoke to me at dinner, though she forced smiles at the kids, her fork clinking against her plate like nails on glass. Adam kept glancing at me, opening his mouth as if he wanted to say something, then shutting it again. The tension was so thick, it was almost laughable. They were terrified. And for once, I wasn't. I lay awake in my room long after everyone had gone to bed. The ticket was tucked safely in my purse, resting under my pillow. I kept my hand near it all night, my fingers brushing against the fabric like it was a lifeline. My heart raced with a mixture of fear and freedom. For 32 years, those numbers had been nothing more than hope scribbled on paper. Now they were power. And with power came choices. The next morning, Rachel emerged from her bedroom with a binder tucked under her arm. Her hair was perfect, her face painted with determination. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, flipping the binder open with a dramatic sigh. "I've been doing research," she said. Her voice was calm, steady, as if she were a professional giving a presentation. "Did you know that 70% of lottery winners end up bankrupt within 5 years?" I poured myself coffee, watching her over the rim of the mug. "Is that so?" "It's true," she pressed on, flipping pages highlighted in neon yellow. "Poor financial planning, bad investments, greedy family members. It's a disaster for most people. That's why you need guidance, family guidance." Adam joined us then, his face pale and tired. "Mom, she's right. This is too big for one person, especially at your age. You don't understand how complicated taxes and investments can be." There it was again, at your age. As if 67 meant I was suddenly incapable of making decisions. As if the years I had spent budgeting, saving, raising a family, and keeping a roof over our heads counted for nothing. I set the mug down slowly, deliberately. "You've put a lot of thought into this," I said softly. "We care about you," Adam insisted, leaning forward. "We just don't want to see you make mistakes." "What kind of mistakes?" I asked. Rachel leaned in eagerly, sensing an opening. "Like buying property without understanding taxes. Or trusting the wrong people. Or making large purchases without considering the long-term impact." I tilted my head. "The wrong people? Like who?" She hesitated, then answered, "Like financial advisors who charge too much. Or family members who might take advantage of you." The irony was almost too much to bear. I folded my hands neatly on the table. "Rachel, tell me something. When I first moved in here, did you research the average cost of senior living facilities in this town?" Her smile faltered. "What do you mean?" "I mean, did you look up the prices so you could charge me just under the market rate?" Adam shifted in his chair. "Mom, we never thought of it like that." "That's funny," I said, pulling a folded sheet of paper from my purse. "Because I did some research yesterday. Do you know what the average cost of a private room in a nice assisted living facility is? $1,800 a month. That includes meals, housekeeping, activities, and medical care. You charged me $1,300 for a guest room. No meals, no care, no privacy. Just rent. And on top of that, I did all your housework and childcare." The silence was deafening. Rachel's face turned red, her binder forgotten. "That's not about money, Mom," Adam said desperately. "It's about family." "Is it?" I asked. "Then why were you planning to move me to the basement?" Neither of them answered. I slid the binder back across the table. "I appreciate your concern about lottery winners losing everything. But I think you're worried about the wrong person making poor financial decisions." Rachel's jaw tightened, her composure crumbling. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," I said quietly, "that in the last year, I've been paying your bills while you planned vacations, bought new furniture, and lived far beyond your means. All while pretending you were doing me a favor." Adam's face fell. For once, there was no argument on his lips. I stood, smoothing my sweater. "That stops now." Their panic was instant. "Mom, wait," Adam begged, rising to his feet. "You can't just walk away from us. We're family. We need to talk about this. We can figure it out together." Rachel's voice cracked, sharper than usual. "You can't handle this on your own, Evelyn. People will take advantage of you. You'll lose everything." I met her eyes, steady as stone. "The only people who have taken advantage of me are standing in this room." I left them at the table, their faces pale, their future crumbling. Upstairs in the quiet of my room, I sat by the window, looking out at the snow-covered street. My heart pounded with fear, yes, but also with freedom. For the first time in 2 years, I wasn't trapped. I wasn't powerless. Downstairs, I could hear Rachel hissing at Adam, her voice low and sharp. Do something. She can't just walk away with all of it. I smiled faintly to myself. Oh yes, I could. Because finally, after years of silence, the choice was mine. By Sunday morning, Rachel had switched into what I like to call crisis management mode. She must have stayed up all night because when I walked into the kitchen, she was already seated at the table with a new binder, her hair brushed into perfection and her brightest, fakest smile plastered on her face. Good morning, Evelyn, she said sweetly, like we hadn't practically declared war the night before. I've been doing some reading. I think you'll find this information very helpful. She opened the binder, revealing pages of articles printed from the internet. Sentences were highlighted in neon pink and yellow. She tapped one of the pages with her manicured nail. Did you know 70% of lottery winners lose everything within a few years? She asked, repeating the same line she'd used the day before but this time with even more drama. Most of them end up worse than before. It's tragic, really. I poured myself a cup of coffee, not bothering to sit just yet. That's so. Adam walked in then, his hair messy, dark circles under his eyes like he hadn't slept. He leaned against the counter, his expression heavy with worry. Mom, she's right. This is a huge responsibility. There are taxes, investments, scams. You can't manage this alone. Rachel leaned forward, her voice soft but insistent. Exactly. That's why you need us. We can help protect you from people who might try to take advantage. The irony almost made me laugh out loud. I sat down across from her, my coffee warming my hands. Rachel, let me ask you something, I said calmly. When I moved in here 2 years ago, did you do this much research about how to protect me? Did you read articles about the cost of assisted living? About how much support a widow might need after losing her husband? Her smile faltered, her eyes darting away. Well, we just wanted to do what was practical. Practical, I repeated softly, tasting the word like something bitter. Practical was charging me $1,300 a month. Practical was asking me to do your housework, your laundry, your babysitting. Practical was planning to shove me in the basement while calling it independence. Adam rubbed his temples. Mom, you're twisting this. We've been giving you a home. I shook my head slowly. No. Adam. You've been taking my money while treating me like hired help. And I let you. Because I thought maybe grief was making me see things unfairly. But I've been keeping track. I reached into my purse and pulled out the small notebook I had kept, laying it flat on the table. The pages were filled with my neat handwriting, numbers circled, totals underlined. In the last 2 years, I said steadily, I've given you more than $25,000. I've provided over 2,000 hours of free childcare. I've done hundreds of loads of laundry, cooked meals, cleaned your house top to bottom. And in return, you've mocked me at dinner parties and treated me like I was lucky to have a bed in your house. Rachel's cheeks burned crimson, but she forced a laugh. Evelyn, you're being dramatic. This is family. We all give and take. Family, I repeated, my voice trembling but firm. Do you know what George told me before he passed? He said, Evelyn, the hardest lesson is realizing family can be the ones who take the most. Don't let them. He saw this coming. And he warned me. Adam's face crumpled, but whether it was guilt or fear, I couldn't tell. I leaned back, my eyes fixed on them both. And now, I have the chance to walk away. I don't need your basement. I don't need your pity. And I certainly don't need your management. The silence that followed was suffocating. Rachel closed the binder with a sharp snap, her mask slipping for just a moment. I saw the panic in her eyes, the calculation already spinning. Evelyn, she said finally, her voice low and tight, do you really think you can do this alone? Do you have any idea how many people are going to come after you now? Every scammer, every fake friend, every distant cousin. You'll drown in it. I sipped my coffee, letting the warmth calm me. Better to drown in freedom than suffocate in your basement. For once, Adam didn't defend her. He just sat there, staring at his hands. I stood, tucking the notebook back into my purse. I'll be making some calls tomorrow. To the lottery office. To my lawyer. And then, I'll be finding a place of my own. Rachel shot to her feet, her chair screeching against the floor. You can't just leave us like this. I turned to her, my voice steady. Watch me. I walked out of the kitchen, leaving them both standing there in stunned silence. My hands were shaking, yes, but not from fear. From release. For the first time in years, I felt like I was taking my life back. That night, as I lay in bed, I whispered to George. You were right. They tried to take advantage. But I won't let them anymore. And for the first time since his funeral, I slept peacefully. By Monday morning, word had already spread through town like wildfire. I hadn't told a soul outside this house, but secrets have a way of slipping into the air. Sam at the corner store must have put 2 and 2 together after seeing the numbers on the news. By noon, 3 news vans were parked outside Adam and Rachel's house, cameras pointed toward the front door like hungry eyes. I peeked from the upstairs window, my heart pounding. Reporters were everywhere, shouting questions to anyone who stepped outside. Rachel of course saw opportunity in the chaos. She came downstairs in full makeup and her best dress, her hair shining like she was about to walk onto a red carpet. When the first reporter knocked, she opened the door with her brightest smile. Mrs. Miller is resting, she said sweetly, her voice carrying across the yard. She's overwhelmed right now, but as her family, we're thrilled. This is a blessing for all of us. All of us. That phrase rolled off her tongue like honey, but to me, it tasted like poison. Upstairs, my phone buzzed non-stop. Old friends I hadn't spoken to in years, church ladies, even my cousin in Minnesota. All of them wanted to congratulate me, and in the same breath, ask what I was planning to do with the money. It was dizzying. But beneath it all, I knew one thing clearly. I wasn't going to let Adam and Rachel spin this story. At 2 p.m., I had an appointment with David Richardson, the lawyer George and I had trusted for years. I grabbed my purse, slid the ticket safely inside, and headed for the door. Rachel appeared suddenly, blocking my way. Her smile was tight, her eyes sharp. Evelyn, you can't go out there. The reporters will mob you. Let us handle this. We'll speak for you. Adam joined her, standing shoulder to shoulder like 2 guards. Mom, be reasonable. You're not ready for this kind of attention. Let us protect you. Their words might have sounded caring to an outsider, but to me, they were chains. I've been protecting myself for 67 years, I said quietly. I think I can manage a walk to my car. When I opened the front door, flashes exploded in my face. Microphones shoved toward me, voices all shouting at once. Mrs. Miller, how does it feel to win $53 million? Are you going to share it with your family? Have you really been playing the same numbers for over 30 years? I froze on the steps for a moment, the world spinning with noise and lights. Behind me, I could almost feel Adam and Rachel willing me to retreat. But instead, I straightened my back and walked down the steps, one slow stride at a time. I'm very grateful for this blessing, I told the cameras, my voice calm but steady. And as for what I plan to do with the money, I intend to live independently and make my own choices for the first time in years. The crowd erupted with more questions. What do you mean by that? One reporter shouted. I looked back at the house where Adam and Rachel stood in the doorway, their smiles frozen like masks about to crack. I mean, I said clearly, that sometimes the people you trust most take advantage of your kindness. And sometimes, life gives you the chance to finally stand up for yourself. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the reporters. The microphones pushed closer. Are you saying your family was exploiting you? I met the nearest camera's gaze, steady and unflinching. I'm saying that family should be about love and respect, not business arrangements. For 2 years, I paid $1,300 a month to live in my son's guest room while doing all of their housework and childcare. They planned to move me to the basement because my presence had become inconvenient. Now that I have the means, I'll be moving out and living life on my own terms. Behind me, I heard Rachel gasp sharply, like the words had been knives. Adam's hand shot out to steady her, but he looked pale, stunned, unable to hide it from the cameras. The questions came faster now, but I didn't need to say more. I slid into my car, started the engine, and drove away, leaving the frenzy, and my so-called protectors, behind. David's office was a quiet refuge compared to the chaos outside. He greeted me warmly, shaking my hand. His eyes softened. Congratulations, Evelyn. George would be proud. I felt my throat tighten. Thank you, I whispered. We spent an hour discussing what came next. Claiming the prize, taxes, investments. He spoke to me like an equal, explaining everything with patience and respect. Not once did he make me feel incapable. But just when I thought the meeting was over, David leaned back in his chair, his expression shifting. There's something I need to tell you. Something George made me promise to share only if certain circumstances came to pass. My stomach dropped. What circumstances? If your family ever tried to take advantage of you financially, David said gently. He opened a thick folder, sliding it across the desk toward me. George had suspicions. He hired a private investigator before he passed. He wanted you to be prepared. My hands trembled as I flipped through the papers. Debt. Credit cards maxed out. Car loans. A mortgage underwater. And losses from Rachel's so-called business. He knew. I whispered. David nodded. He wanted you to have proof, in case Adam and Rachel ever turned against you. He also took out an insurance policy. $500,000, placed in a trust in your name. It's been sitting here for 2 years, waiting for you. Tears blurred my vision. George. Even from the grave. He had been protecting me. He had seen the vultures circling before I had. I closed the folder slowly, my hands steadying. David, I said, my voice stronger than I felt, I want a family meeting tonight. I want them to hear exactly what I know. He searched my eyes. Evelyn, once you show them this, there's no going back. Are you sure? I thought of Adam's pleading eyes, Rachel's fake smiles, the years of being treated like a tenant instead of a mother. I thought of George, who had warned me, who had prepared me. Yes, I said firmly. It's time they learn what happens when you underestimate me. That evening, the living room felt colder than usual. Maybe it was the December air sneaking through the windows, or maybe it was the storm that was about to break inside those 4 walls. Adam and Rachel thought they were coming to calm me down, maybe to scold me for talking to reporters. What they didn't know was that tonight, their carefully built facade was going to crumble. Rachel arrived first, balancing a laptop and yet another binder stuffed with spreadsheets. Her face was painted with professional calm, but her eyes betrayed the flicker of nerves. Adam followed her in, holding a bottle of wine like it was some kind of peace offering. He smiled too much, the way people smile when they're desperate. Mom, Adam began gently, placing the bottle on the coffee table. About what you said earlier, to those reporters. We understand you were overwhelmed. It happens. Big changes can shake people. I sat in my armchair, steady, waiting. My hands rested on a folder David had prepared for me, and the weight of it felt like an anchor. I wasn't overwhelmed, I said calmly, interrupting him. I was finally telling the truth. Rachel clicked open her laptop, trying to seize control. Evelyn, we've prepared something for you. She turned the screen toward me, rows of charts and graphs glowing. A comprehensive financial plan. It covers investments, taxes, estate planning. Everything you'd need to secure your future. I let her speak, nodding as though I was listening. Her voice was polished, confident, full of the same corporate language she loved so much. This ensures your money lasts for generations, she finished, her smile triumphant. When she finally stopped, I reached for my folder and placed it on the coffee table. Before we discuss my security, I said softly, we should discuss yours. Rachel blinked. Ours. Adam frowned. What do you mean? I opened the folder slowly, the papers whispering as they turned. The air in the room shifted. This, I said, laying the first document flat, is a complete financial profile of your household. Compiled by a private investigator. At your father's request. The color drained from Adam's face. Rachel's hand froze on her laptop. Dad. Adam croaked. Yes, I said evenly. Before he died, George had concerns. He wanted to make sure I wouldn't be blindsided. So he did some digging. I slid another page across the table. Adam, you owe $47,000 in credit card debt. Across 6 cards. Your mortgage is underwater by $32,000. You have 2 car loans totaling $18,000. And Rachel? I looked up, meeting her eyes. Your business has been operating at a loss for 8 months straight. The silence that followed was suffocating. Rachel's lips parted, but no sound came out. Adam shook his head, his voice breaking. Mom, how could he do this?
Dad, he spied on us.
He protected me, I corrected gently.
Because he knew this day might come.
Rachel's composure shattered.
This is outrageous. How dare you invade our privacy?
I leaned forward, my voice calm but sharp. Privacy? You mean the same privacy you invaded when you decided I was too incompetent to manage a ticket I bought with my own money? The same privacy you shattered when you dug through my purse without asking? Rachel's cheeks burned crimson. She pressed her lips together, but she had no answer.
For 2 years, I continued, my voice steady, I've given you my money, my labor, my time.
$15,000 a year in so-called expenses. Thousands of hours of unpaid childcare. Hundreds of meals cooked. And what did I receive in return? A guest room you plan to move into the basement. The humiliation of being laughed at in front of your friends.
Do you know what that's called, Adam?
He swallowed hard.
Exploitation.
Yes, I said firmly. Exploitation.
By my own son.
Rachel tried again, her voice shrill. We never meant for it to be like that. We were struggling, Evelyn. We needed help, and you were family. We thought. You thought I was too old, too soft, too desperate to notice. I cut in. My voice shook with anger, but I didn't back down. But I noticed. And George noticed before me. He set up protections. A trust. $500,000, sitting untouched for 2 years, waiting for me. He wanted to make sure I could walk away the moment I realized what was happening. Adam's jaw dropped. A trust?
Dad never told me.
Because he didn't trust you, I said quietly.
And now neither do I.
The words hung heavy, a truth that couldn't be taken back. Adam buried his face in his hands, groaning. Rachel stood, pacing the room like a caged animal. This isn't fair, she cried. We gave you a home.
We. No, I said, rising to my feet, my voice steady and strong.
You gave me a bill. You gave me chores. You gave me loneliness. That isn't a home. That's a cage. I gathered the documents back into the folder and slipped it into my purse. I'm moving out. I've already put a deposit on a place at Meadowbrook Senior Community. 2 bedrooms. Full kitchen. My own parking space. And it costs less than what you charged me for your guest room. Rachel gasped, her face crumbling.
You're leaving?
Yes, I said, turning toward the door. And when I go, you'll have to figure out how to pay your debts without my money propping you up. $47,000 in credit card bills. A drowning mortgage. A failing business.
I hear financial stress can be very challenging.
I paused, looking back at them one last time. Maybe now you'll understand what it feels like to be used. Rachel broke into sobs, the kind of tears people cry when they've been caught, not when they're sorry. Adam reached for me, his voice shaking. Mom, please, don't do this. We're family. We can fix it. Please. But I only shook my head. Family isn't supposed to feel like a prison, Adam. Family isn't supposed to bleed you dry. And with that, I walked out, leaving them in their living room of lies, their future collapsing around them. The morning I moved out was brighter than I expected. Winter sunlight poured through the frosted windows, painting the driveway in gold. I stood at the doorway with 2 suitcases and a purse, my life packed neatly into a few bags. It was strange. After years of feeling small in this house, I didn't feel heavy leaving. I felt lighter, like every step was carrying me back to myself. Adam lingered in the kitchen doorway, his shoulders slumped. He looked older than his years, as though the weight of all his debts and decisions had finally settled on him. Rachel sat at the dining table, arms crossed, mascara smeared from another night of tears. For once, she had no binder, no laptop, no plan, just silence.
Mom, Adam whispered as I reached for the door handle.
His voice cracked like a child's. I didn't mean for it to get this bad. I thought we were helping each other. I turned, meeting his eyes. There was something raw in them now. Regret, maybe shame. But it came too late. Helping each other would have meant sharing, not charging, I said gently. Respecting, not mocking. Protecting, not planning to lock me in a basement. I gave and gave, Adam, and you took until I had nothing left. That isn't family. That's business. And I'm not your business. Rachel shifted, her voice breaking. Evelyn, we were scared. We didn't know how to manage things. We leaned on you because you were strong. Maybe too strong. We should have admitted that instead of hiding it. I studied her for a long moment. She wanted forgiveness, but not out of love, out of desperation. I could feel it in my bones. Rachel, I said quietly, strength isn't about using others to cover your weakness. Strength is about facing your mess and owning it. That's a lesson you still have to learn. I turned back to the door. My taxi pulled into the driveway, the driver stepping out to grab my bags. As I stepped onto the porch, reporters weren't waiting anymore. The frenzy had died down. Maybe they'd moved on to the next headline, or maybe they'd realized the real story wasn't the money. It was me finally walking free. The ride to Meadowbrook Senior Community was quiet. Snow sparkled on the trees, children played in yards, and the world felt open again. I thought of George, of his laughter, of the nights we stayed up talking about dreams we couldn't afford but loved imagining anyway. I smiled faintly. He would have been proud of me. When we arrived, the community wasn't the cold institution Adam and Rachel had hinted at. It was warm, welcoming. The building had big windows, flower beds even in winter, and friendly faces at the front desk. My new apartment overlooked a small lake. 2 bedrooms, sunlight in every corner, and silence that felt like peace. That first night, I cooked myself a simple dinner. Pasta with garlic bread. I ate at a small table by the window, watching the sun dip below the trees. For the first time in years, every bite was mine. Every decision was mine. Every breath was mine. A week later, I got a call from Adam. His voice was shaky. "Mom, we're drowning. The mortgage company called. Rachel's business." He broke off, swallowing hard. "We don't know what to do. Can you help us?" I closed my eyes, my heart twisting. He was my son. No matter what had happened, that bond couldn't just vanish. But bonds didn't mean blindness. "Adam," I said softly, "I spent 2 years paying your bills while you pretended I was lucky to live under your roof. I gave until I had nothing left, and you gave me humiliation in return. I love you, but I won't be your crutch anymore. If you want to climb out of this, you'll have to do it yourself." His silence on the other end spoke louder than words. Finally he whispered, "I'm sorry, Mom," and the line went dead. I sat there for a long time, staring at the phone. The sorrow was real, but so was the relief. Because the truth was, helping him now wouldn't teach him anything. Sometimes love meant stepping back and letting someone learn the hard way. In the weeks that followed, I settled into my new life. I joined a book club, started gardening in the community greenhouse, even made a few friends who laughed with me instead of at me. I rediscovered the sound of my own voice, my own choices, my own joy. And every evening when the sun dipped low, I whispered to George, "I kept my promise. I didn't let them take advantage. I found my strength." The money didn't change who I was. It simply gave me the freedom to remember it. And the lesson, the one I wish Adam and Rachel had learned earlier, was simple. You don't measure family by how much they can give you. You measure family by how much love and respect they offer when you have nothing. Because money can vanish overnight, but love, the real kind, never runs dry. I finally had both my freedom and my dignity back. And that was worth far more than $53 million.